trumpet, Gabriel, blow it loud and louder, and I hope that trump might blow me home to the New Jerusalem. Paul and Silas, bound in jail, sing God's praise both night and day, and I hope that trump might blow me home to the New Jerusalem. Blow your trumpet, Gabriel, blow it loud and loud, and I hope that trump might blow me home to the New Jerusalem. I hope it does blow them home, although seized in the marketplace of human capital. But right now, all I hear trumpeting are blustering boast about being tough on crime and misleading media made to maintain some manufactured war on drugs that keeps officials chasing the scream of those in need while ignoring their cries for help. Thus, sales swell. More dull in them here in the land of liberty than anywhere else. Even the smallest or most repentant for offenses could get you caught up in a maze of mandatory minimums. This mandates a story. At minimum, a telling of truth, because this situation has many doing time, and time keeps on slipping into the future. We want to fly like an eagle, but all we see is the new Jim Crow and the societal cage with human rights perverted in the presence of the Most High. Human rights deserted, people missing, broken families cry, millions on the inside near forgotten. Do we ask why? Seems like folk can tell us how they got there, or if numbers die in deplorable conditions, their lamentations being met with lamentable lies. Oh, sure, the rulers speak pretty words about equal justice, but modify their verbs to contain no action. Their sentence structure is unbalanced, with a bias to renoun that predicates a belief that people of color and poor whites are to be relegated to a subordinate clause. Pardon my grammar, but that ish just ain't right, and the only corrections I see are the glaring ones that need to be made to this criminal injustice system. Both public and privatized prisons are run like rental companies, with individuals treated as junk for storage. This arrangement might have you hauled away, but this ain't Mom's Attica. It's the sand quintessential scorching of souls, but no renaissance of freedom in Florence, more like the crucifixion of lives, an angle of 3 up on crosses of falsehood, fear, and greed. Even the Nazarene would catch the Folsom Prison Blues under these conditions. Imagine if the carpenter had to sing a song of stolen liberties. Countless commune in this name yet act as if the least of these are mere unleavened, worth passing over. Take 2.2 million of the Creator's loved ones locked up in the U.S. Add them to the 21 million of God's children, many just children, carted around the world as chattel, driven by the trade in forced sex and labor, and you got gridlock on the road to any rights, with nobody moving freely. Up next, human trafficking and weather. Or not, you choose to reroute your eyes around it, it's still there. Wonder why this absurdity is so out of control? Follow the money. The prison industrial isn't that complex when its context is clarified as corporate players monopolizing human beings like tokens after they land on go to jail. It's easier to figure when you factor in the foolishness of police districts blowing up their bookings and filling beds. See, this is slavery by any other name. Oh, wait now. The Napoleon the 13th does call it that, doesn't it? Well, there it is. Easy as 1, 2, 3. The strikes you get before being struck out of the full roster of citizenship. Sent down to the minors. Disenfranchised. You don't even get that many swings if you're the away team trying to play in the home park of the privileged. Hard-working folk forced to flee their forebears' farms due to falling prices fashioned by free trade agreements, or fleeing violence fueled by arms forged in northern factories and Faustian pacts between our federal and its nefarious friends. Thousands go through hell to get here, only to arrive in hell. Surprise? Well, you won't hear tell of this too much. Our welcoming government quells this, trying to keep it on the side, but now detention is a family affair, with everyday people rounded up together then torn apart. Parents and children made separate, but equal is the pain in their hearts. They were hoping this country would want them to stay, but they didn't discover that even here, not everybody is a star. For them, there's no hot fun in the summertime because they got iced. So while they're made to dance to the music of orchestrated racism, they look for allies to help take them higher. Question is, will we stand with them, doing everything we can so that their God-given dignity is respected and they can be themselves again? We are the ones who must make the earth quake. We are the trumpets that must make the walls shake with justice, that opens doors and blows the captives home. Indeed, we might be the next captives. So I will be locked arms with those on lockdown or our spirits languish. our action is of seismic importance. We better not blow it. The selling of souls, that's spelled with a C, the selling of souls. Frederick, Maryland, what up, what up? So good to be with you today. So good to be with, though I'm from Baltimore, what is one of my homes by extension, because of my beloved sister, Tanya, and her family. And I am very much honored by the invitation of Frederick United and Sons of Reawakening, and Woman Solve, and everybody who has gone into putting together what is an absolutely so uplifting, beautiful day. I needed this. I don't know about you. I had no idea what was going to happen, what the turnout was going to be, but as far as I'm concerned, this is coming home. With this type of coming together, this type of gathering of our people like this. I am known as Analysis, and I, as I say, am from Baltimore. I am a spoken word artist, a radical bookseller at a place called Red Emma's Bookstore Coffee House in Baltimore. You are invited to visit or visit us online at redemmas.org. I am a minister in background and previous profession, and a few different other things over the years, secondary educator. What does all of that mean? Means that there's a heck of a lot to talk about in poems, because we know what's going on in the community. The brother just described, and I'm so glad he educated me on what's going on right here, even locally with this park. When you expand that to what is being done and has been done to our people, people ask me what is the source of my poems. I'm like, just what happens. I never run out of material, unfortunately. I wish I did. I actually don't have time to write about everything that is going on. But we're going to do a few more poems that I hope that you can use and take with you. They are, most of them, not all of them today, but most of what you hear today is contained in a book that I brought with me. It's called Somewhere Through the Haze. Somewhere Through the Haze. It is a short collection of justice and human rights pieces. I'm set up over with the Frederick United table over there in the back, so after the set, please come find me. I hope that you come and get one, not only for my benefit, but for your interest is also. I don't want you to just get the book and leave it on the shelf, or even just read it for yourself. I want you to be able to take the poems and find out how you can use them as a tool, take them to your place of worship, your job, your organization, or even those people that you need to stir their critical analysis. All right. Speaking of which, speaking of that particular name, you know, now that we're all the way up here, I guess that perhaps introductions are in order. I am the genesis of an informative adventure of the highest order, leading you on an exodus across the borders of your cognitive frontiers. But don't worry, I'm no coyote exploiter. I'm just not resigned to let you loiter in some arid state of mind. It seems that in these times there encroaches an increasing desertification of critical thought, a disturbing tendency. Thus, I'm empowering you to reconnoiter the traps of the enemy. This is no time to loaf on the mental sofa, withering away. It's time for Sankofa. Let's journey into the past to gain insight for the future, as I drop knowledge that heals your wounds like sutures closing gashes, making you feel new. And if I challenge you a bit, well, that's okay too, because I'm okay too. Dangerous, like the mountain. So don't step intrude and miss these hooks of wisdom provided for you, like the Library of Alexandria or the schools of Timbuktu. For I am the African, brown, like the rich earth our ancestors sold, told. Hey long, all say kelele bala le beats slow la sutu. All right, pause the poem. Poem is pause, poem is pause. Are there any speakers of any African continental language in the park today? I see you, a couple folk. I can see a couple folk. Good. More specifically, are there any Sesotho speakers? Any Sotho speakers? Any Southern African Sesotho speakers in the house? Not today, not at the moment. That's all right. We're going to learn a quick line of Sesotho. You ready? All right, put your think caps on. You ready? You got this? Loosen up the tongue, loosen up the mouth. Okay. You're going to repeat as loud as you possibly can after me. I'm going to break it down. We're going to chop it up. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Ready.
All right, here we go. Hey long.
Hey long.
O se ke le bala. Le beats la soto. Oh, not bad. We're going to let that roll. We're going to let that slide. Sometimes I got to repeat it 2, 3 times. Y'all are good, though. So y'all are, all right. That means, hey, don't forget the name of Brown, my actual last name. Secret. My entire name and a whole lot about me is in this poem. You just got to know what to listen for. All right. So we're going to do it one more time, and I'm going to chop it up again. But at the end, instead of saying Sultu, you're going to say your name. Because nobody should be forgetting who you are, or what you bring to this earth, or what you bring to our community, correct?
Yes.
So you're going to say that now. So remember, don't say Sultu at the end, say whatever your name is. This fools people every time. Watch it happen. Watch it happen. Right? Ready? Here we go. Hey, long.
Hey, long.
Ose ke le bala.
Ose ke le banga.
Le bito la Sultu.
La bite la Briana.
Good. I don't think I slipped anybody up this time. Y'all are paying attention. All right. I see what we got going in Frederick. All right, here we go. We're going to unpause the phone. Where was I standing? Right here?
Yeah.
Right there? Okay, unpause. Like a poetic Zorro, I slashed my margins. My words cut deep into the senseless denseness of aristocrats' defenses as they cower intense and hide behind fences. Their offenses reeking with the stenches of greed as they grip the poor and clench like wrenches. And dare I mention that my declension suffered no declension as I free from detention, the denotation of words and phrases that serve as detonation, the false declarations noted by a declination of diligent disquisition. For many, it is beyond their kin how I can weave such power like our literary kindred. Fools who step wrong to the words of kindred assume their miscalculation. I design communication for any situation. I'll lay it down smooth as a line you'll adore, or break it down plain and simple. Almost hardcore. You see, with me, one way or another, your mind will discover the wonderful excitement of the awesome enlightenment I will help you experience, serving indictment with those with tales so trite meant to subject your spirit to conservative confinement. I'm fun and playful, like a kid Saturday morning. A little crazy, and sometimes kind of weird, but never boring. Alluringly calm like those warm Russell sunsets on those Chesapeake eves, offering you solace in the safe space. Alighting upon you like a cool breeze. I'll cause you to get a good book and read and snuggle, rekindling your interest in the struggle. Mystical and magical, I am the incarnation of the both and, refusing polarizations that would restrict what I am or am supposed to be. So come with me and be free. I'm a teacher, yet still junior to those who were taught, who have set the example from which I ought sample and learn. May I earn the right to leave this plane, leaving it more just than when I came. Perfection not claimed, mind and soul maimed by racist, classist society that attempts to keep us tamed. Still escaping mental subjugation, return to what the self should be. 4 directions bringing healing winds to me. Inviting all people of color to make it a priority to discard our complex of inferiority and follow that drinking gore to that freedom-giving revelation that we are all a chosen nation. Chosen to be who we are as God's creation. Likewise, inviting all those of the dominant group to recoup what you lost through that superiority syndrome throwing you for a loop. Let's work together to build a new situation which balances the divine equation and allows us to live in unfettered elation. Yeah, I'm that athlete who defies the years, a friend with whom to cry your tears. I find you when you reach new tiers, expanding your world into brand new spheres. Determined, improbable. Vision, unstoppable. Might bend but won't topple. On a mission, can possible. So listen to the offering I proffer you. As my midrashim loom away in view. Real communion and way more true. Come now, for all things are ready for your soul to be renewed. Tell your friends about this. And make sure you don't miss this chance to feel the bliss as I dismiss all mental paralysis and raise your level of critical
analysis.
Y'all are on it. Usually people miss that trick, ain't they? Y'all are paying attention. I like that. I'm not used to that, people paying attention. Okay. I want to read to you something from my fellow poet and activist based out in LA. This dear sister goes by the name Nikki Black. And you can see this on her Instagram. Her Instagram is at Nikki Black, NIKKIBLAK. You can also see it on my Instagram. I've reposted it. My Instagram is Analysis the Poet. This is the word. These are the words of Nikki Black. It is interesting to observe the Senate pass a bill to make Juneteenth a federal holiday while stalling an anti-lynching bill. This insistence on celebration without reparations is at best indicative of a lack of self-awareness in the median, performative, and at worst, a cruel and sneering taunt. If you reap the spoils of chattel slavery, Juneteenth is not your celebration. If you are not willing to relinquish the benefits afforded to you through the systematic degradation, marginalization, and oppression of Black people, Juneteenth is not your celebration. Again, if you are not willing to decouple yourself from whiteness, Juneteenth is not your celebration. Again, if you are not willing to divest from whiteness, Juneteenth is not your celebration. Additionally, Juneteenth is not a day to romanticize the ability of our ancestors to endure the horror of chattel slavery. Juneteenth is not a moment to commemorate the day on which this benevolent democracy bestowed the gift of freedom upon the last of the enslaved Africans. No one gave them anything. Everything was taken from them. Not only was freedom a birthright stolen from them for generations, but if we must imagine it another way, they earned their own liberation through blood, sweat, resistance, and outright rebellion. Juneteenth honors a rich legacy of resistance, the words of Nikki Black.
Yes.
They play games with these holidays, man. They play games with these holidays. We could talk until we've already talked about this one. It makes me think of another one that happens in January, correct? And as much as we love honoring our ancestors with the King holiday, with Juneteenth, or anything else, we have to look at the way in which the society plays games with these holidays, in which it claims to know history and it does not thoroughly enough, in which it claims to honor us and they barely do. And over the years, I had so much angst built up around, not only around the King holiday and the way it's viewed, but the way King himself and the way the civil rights movement itself is so misunderstood by the wider society that I had to write about it. This is called Dream Fade. So everyone was on a rainbow high, caught up in the swirl of all the colors that were to unfurl evenly, dreamily, promising you and me that society would be as it should be, that we could all be together on life's playground and that everyone would play real nice. Thing is, we got played. Real nice. Let ourselves get caught napping so heavily that the dream got blurred and the wisdom of the dream weaver got obscured, and in our grogginess, we miss how much our dreams been adjured. Our king decreed that we should be vigilant and heed his warning sent from the court of a Birmingham jail and scribed in while we can't wait. But it seems we waited things out long enough to let the enemies at the gate attack our royal sage, assuaging us by promoting him to demigod and thus demoting him in his prophetic power. We nod, dozing as a still hateful world has us join hands and say, I have a dream, while ignoring the edgier incisiveness of the dreamer. You see, their scheme was brilliant. Have us happy for a holiday and placate us with a few morsels of rights while right in front of our eyes they continue to feast on elaborate systemic racism and extravagant economic exploitation, discarding justice as waste for disposal, washed away with a watered down view of Martin, a sad reality in a supposed dream world. Reality is, you don't hear them holler in support of our support of black dollars like we're doing here today in Frederick. With stealth, they suppressed the wealth ML wanted us to build, undercutting our understanding of the Ujamaa and his urgent calls for unified action. You don't hear abundant accolade for his address of April 4th, 67, a year to the day before a bullet sent him to heaven for denouncing the hell this country raised in Southeast Asia. They'd rather keep us dreaming in fantasia than for us to wake up, knowing that it's time to break silence. Public perception is stuck on the steps of the memorial, memorialized, i.e. dead, or so it would seem. Thus, I have a dream, deferred. Not that I'm not proud of that spectacular speech in front of that crowd. Indeed, it's good to see the prophesied leader and elder so deservedly receives. However, we're deceived if we think it's full of message of equality, is fully believed, or such is even close to having been achieved. So be careful of hollow hosannas and loosely thrown laudations. Not everyone who says of him, Lord, Lord, wants to enter the kingdom. Still, for a few days every middle of January, we get inundated with effusive exclamations and empty exaltations about keeping the dream alive from a society that continues to kill it, keeping itself exempt from any responsibility to fulfill it, while those not exempt from being the other work hard with no benefits of privileged status. So while the privileged deify the drum major for justice, they keep folk dragging their feet to the drone of a conformist beat that drums into our heads a dumbed-down version of the radical strive toward freedom he led us on. Of course, we do have MLK boulevards across the urban landscape. Some in areas so horrific that the honoree would cringe at the dishonorable conditions he sought to eradicate. He would hate the under-resourcing of many schools bearing his name. Elementary inequities and line items and allotments help create a secondary education so exiguous of equal footing that the erudite ecclesiastic was surely eponymous engravings upon the edifices. Yet, when we declare our continued concern about our continued confinement to a lower caste, we are condescendingly told, oh, that was cute. Now run along and play. We have more important things to do, like control the wealth and build our empire. Why don't you go build a campfire and sing Kumbaya, my Lord? Just don't come right in here. My Lord. I wonder when we'll be free at last from falling for the false reverence these felons feign to offer the reverend. Fronting just far enough to finagle their fingers into our fortune. The case in our community accommodates such fraud because we fail to focus on where we go from here. He said, I may not get there with you, but we as a people will get to the promised land since we settled on promises. Settling for a promissory note from a nation that promised us a story to note about justice, but instead wrote more bad checks because we still don't receive much credit in this union. So here's a reality check. Our dream is the oppressor's nightmare because sharing the power in the purse scares them to death, and so they make sure we stay asleep. Deep in REM stages, they stage scenes, peaceful scenes for our matrix, making us think we've made it and that Martin's work is done. Everybody was on a rainbow high, caught up in the swirl, while those who have no love for the beloved community love watching it crash low. We better act like we know. The only way our dream will become reality is for us to wake up and get real. And somewhere through the haze, a prophet points the way forward. Maybe we'll get the point and keep moving. Dream fade.
Woo! Yes.
I'm gonna do a few more for you and get out the way because I want to see what's next, because we have had such a beautiful day of talent and lineup and speakers and power. Dr. Wimbush and I had a chance to meet 20 years ago now during the World Conference Against Racism, a process that gave us hope and joy and alerted many people to a lot of systemic evils and the need for reparations, the need for governmental change and what have you. Of course, we haven't really seen that change. We haven't gotten the reparations yet because, you know, they kind of squelched all of that. But we certainly came together to try to push and to try. I'm so glad to hear that our dear sister is going to be coming to Howard University. HU! There you go. I knew I always have some vices in the house. Always have some vices in the house. American University also, NAU. I'm usually the only AAU person. You'd be surprised. All right, good. I see families, I see loved ones, I see children, I see parents, I see grandparents. How many great-grandparents in the house? How many great-grandparents we had today? I see your hand.
Yeah.
I see a couple hands. I see a few hands. I see 3, 4, 5 hands of great-grandparents in the field today. Good. Her name was Alice Louise Miller Burnett Rogers Prince.
Oh, wow.
But I just called her Nan. And it would be a long time before I'd understand how privileged I am to have grown into adult years with my great-grandmother at hand. And even through adult tears I shed at missing her, I know I stand better prepared to face adult fears by remembering how she held my hand. Long hair, beautifully black in its grayness, and features that testify to the mix of vocabulary and Turtle Island that our heritage wove into her. This always intrigued me, always resonated in me, such that my alliance in later years with the indigenous fam came as naturally to me as the escape routes how people ran to native lands. Born in the last year of the 19th, not far removed from slavery's maze, I was amazed. I'd say, Nan, you were born in the olden days. She'd just pat me on the arm and laugh at how tickled I got at things. Guess I'm not far removed from things myself. I found myself in loving awe at being in the presence of living history, feeling connected to the ancestors in ways I could not fully understand, and yet my spirit embraced this mystery. Moved from Brooklyn to Baltimore so her teen mother granddaughter could continue to be more and proceed with her higher learning, while her daughter did the earning and she helped take care of the child. All the while during these formative times, I was surrounded by 3 generations, wrapping me like warm blankets, layering love and lessons on me I so often find lamentably lacking in little ones and youth today. I'd go down home with her to North Carolina, or ride the train to Kentucky. Didn't know how lucky I was that my world was more than just the hood, and thus my worldview was more of what it should be, letting a young black kid know that he, indeed, could be. Laying on her bed and playing with toys as she rocked in her chair and watched the stories. Y'all know what the stories are, right? They still call them that? That's old folk talk. That was the soap operas. Every family had what channel they were doing. My family would always watch NBC ones with Dr. Laying on her bed and playing with toys as she rocked in her chair and watched the stories. Listening to her was to be lifted back in time to that little one-room schoolhouse where she taught reading, writing, and arithmetic, making sure something would stick in the heads of black children as she helped raise the village around her, as well as make sure her own family would rise. My eyes were filled with wonder at stories of a farm horse named Dapper Dan. They filled with sorrow as she spoke of a son who drowned as a young man. I can remember the sadness in her voice when she said, "It's not right that a mother should outlive her child." I look at old photos, which are new to me each time. I travel time and see her beauty, accompanied by a stern look, which used to stir my curiosity. I think, how could this possibly be? How can this hardened one be the sweet Nan that helped raise me, that recited songs, listen to me read gospel stories, let me draw, let me help cook, then took over as I looked, fascinated that the pop of the hot grease didn't bother her at all. Took me to the park, watched me dance around the room acting crazy like the people on TV, made snow cones with me, fixed me tea, made sure I was safe as could be, and so I'd wonder what's wrong with this picture, until I realized that nothing was wrong with this picture. Realized she had to be a strong fixture for her family while enduring the poisonous mixture of classism, racism, and sexism so prevalent in society. That solemn strength was the sobriety needed to get her family through a world drunk with the lynching of black bodies and souls. Her soul's devotion gave her kinfolk the substance of hope and fostered a faith that was evidenced in the love seen and felt by all who were around it. I'm actually astounded that a black woman could survive nearly a century of this sick so-called civilization and still be as sane and kind and caring as she was, even while scrubbing too many white women's floors, walking through too many back doors, working so that doors would be open for her children. Precious progeny, brought forth with a man named John Henry Rogers, a man I am decades removed from ever having known, yet ever shall I intone his name with quiet reverence for the great and grandfather he must have been. My child's mind would intertwine him and the folk legend by the similar name. Indeed, they were both hammer out a life for their families, because our John Henry also worked hard until his death of TB, a poor man's disease that robbed Alice of her beloved after too few seasons. Yet, she continued to be strong for her family, and thus her family became strong. Their birthstones embedded in her ring, she cherished her children and kept them ever in her thoughts and prayers. She was the matriarch who guided the ark of her heirs, and throughout my years I was surrounded by pillars of love. My soul stands tall as I call their names like the tribes of Israel. Always the story I'll tell, for they will always be my chosen generation. With pride I say them, summoning ancestral strength as I sound their names. John Henry Jr., Allison Ephraim, James Thaddeus, Edna Louise, Lillian Lucille, George Franklin. Together they forged a rank in which I always had elders to look up to. I always said I would sit them down, write their bios. Funny how you wake up one day and they're gone. Your only historical task having been procrastinated on one lifetime too long, and that is something I shall eternally regret. Yet, let me not regress into stagnance of pity. Let me and the others teach the young ones on how they're part of a lineage proud. Let's share stories and glories and remembrances aloud as Nan would have us do. This legacy is my leverage to live, and so let me live out the lessons learned and use the wisdom earned to overcome the mind's and soul's illness. I can have no excuses because I have no lack of example from which to sample strength of spirit, inspirited by their encouragement, and nurtured by one who exuded faith unwavering, kindness unfailing. When I feel myself ailing, I can hear her voice singing, and the verses of my years with her come back to me like a trust in him. She'll always be there, as she was in my grandmother's time, and in my mother's, and in mine, and will be in times to come. Like the African violets she so loved, she was royal grace and black beauty in the form of an ever-present peaceful presence, and she is present with me. Yea, I am convinced that nothing can separate me from the love of that God-sent soul who helped me define my very life. So even in the midst of the strife, I can still myself and still feel myself comforted by my great-grandmother's hand. Her name was Alice, Louise, Miller, Burnett, Rogers, Prince. But I just called her Nan.
Woo! Yes.
Thank you so much. Sit down with those elders, with the video and the recorder and the computer, and write their stories. Do not, I say again, do not live with the regret that I live with and not having done those stories. I beg of you, sit down with those elders before it's too late and write their stories, or else you will have a line in your poem like I just had in mine, regretting that you did not do so, all right? And this celebration is a reminder of that. One more piece. We'll close with this. The hardest piece to do in some ways, even though I've done it many, many times, probably hundreds of times now. Ironically enough, I've never performed this poem in Frederick. Interestingly enough. You heard the brother talk about it a little bit earlier in introducing me. Not 15 minutes from here, in November of 2007, my nephew Jarrel Gray was coming home from partying with some friends. There was a designated driver. There's another friend of theirs. They had been drinking a little bit, so they were too loud for 4 or 5 in the morning. Started arguing. A neighbor called in a noise complaint. The story goes sideways from there. Frederick Deputy Rudolph Torres had arrived to the scene. Instead of doing what you or I might do in this situation, especially we had a badge behind us, instead of talking the young men down, getting them inside, responding to it in a public health way, Deputy Torres drew his taser, fired a shot into my nephew Jarrel. He fell face forward, immobile. Deputy Torres fired a second shot. Jarrel was pronounced dead a couple hours later. My sister's never heard this live, even though she's heard it by recording and has a copy of it. She's here today, so.
Oh, wow.
Got it. Take your time.
We're with you.
So this is for you, Tanya. And I love you. All right, my hands are down. All right, got you. I heard you the first time. What the fuck? All right, my hands are down. I said my hands are down. My hands are down. That's what I heard he said. Before the metal darts bore into him. Before all that current tore in through him. 50,000 volts, not once but twice, causing a schism in his neural and cardiac system, less to the division. 100,000 by 20 years of a young black man's life. There would be 5,000 units of hate for each year he had to live with the stress and strife of being a young African in a society full of banality and police brutality. A society of racial profiling. Subtly smiling. Thinking in its collective head, oh well, just another nigga dead. Cops copped the life of color. A cat got capped by even cops of color who copped out and got co-opted into a corrupt conformity that consigns our kind to some crazy contumely, creating a contempt that ransom amps to stamp out our community and watch to swat our attempt to live humanly. Yeah, I know that damn goose made him kind of loose, but that was no justification for an electronic noose. They made it seem like he was in a threatening position, but that's another damn law enforcement fiction, because eyewitnesses made statements to the contrary. But what I witness too often from the constabulary is a lack of emotional fitness to be carrying weaponry and a dangerous disposition to be the adversary. And so he was tasered. You know, that electronic control device that's gotten out of control and is now the vice of choice for many, an out-of-control control freak. That non-lethal weapon, which has been surprisingly lethal for more than 300 people whose lives is leaked. I already had a negative view about it. I never thought this close to home the news would hit. Check my phone. 5 times my sister had called. Oh, something's wrong, y'all. Found out later. To shock the ball, to stun the cry. The guy who loved to run ball, whose smile was still so childlike on a man-child's body tall, was shocked and stunned to death, shrouded under hatred's pall. The first baby boy, my sister. How I wished I could be with her, how more than ever I missed her. I could only imagine her screams as her young mister, which the Creator gifted her, was ripped from her, creating a rift in her. God, please uplift in her the strength to go on. Took him to a game once. Woohoo! Thank God for that one time, which he enjoyed and appreciated. Let me know I wasn't hated, even though my calls and cars were belated, and though I rarely was around, he'd never be rated. Now, this is no excuse for it. It's nothing that makes it right. But admittedly, for a time, his mother and I weren't running tight. No. Not like there was a fight, nothing deranged, just a brother and a sister estranged, though that was beginning to change. But for the longest time, it was for no other reason than that we hadn't sat down to talk. And now we were in a season of tragedy which brought us into a closer walk. Now, I respected my sis because she always invited, always pleaded with me to come get him and be that uncle I was supposed to be. Spend time with him. Be a man with him, just like these sons of Reawakening are doing with these young people. Spend time with him. Be a man with him. Encourage and, if need be, reprimand him. Help him focus. Teach him. Give him some locus where he can reach in and center himself and execute his plans. Now he's been executed by trigger-happy hands. Weird, isn't it? Spend a career working with other people's kids while your relationship with some of your own hits the skids, made slippery with good intentions. So with all that having been mentioned, can't make the same mistakes of absence with the next two. Gotta honor Rel's memory and to them be true. Oh, internal investigations, of course, found no wrongdoing and thus no punitive action was ensuing. Obviously, they weren't really looking. Too much a part of the system to make the correct booking. The not-so-grand jury made no convictions. The oppressors hope that we lack conviction and will wither in this war of attrition. They act as if we owe them contrition. But no. There will be no acquiescence to the slaver's electronic whip. No letting the memory of Jarrel and others slip. No voltage that will leave our minds so dazed, our souls so... Tase that we accept this shit is just an unfortunate phase and do nothing but turn the page or turn aside from our justified rage. No, we won't let ourselves be consumed by hate, but we don't appreciate the continued rate at which our killers get escaped. Too many folk have been charged and their murderers not charged. Too many folk have been charged while in the authorities charged and left twisted in some dying position while those in charge get to hide behind their badges and positions. So I'm charging us with the mission of unplugging the injustice which kills our brothers and sisters, which kills our children. Shocking, but true. So let's do what we gotta do. Speak love to our young ones while we have the opportunity. Speak truth to power to end police impunity. We cannot and will not accept this current reoccurrence of hate. The survival of our families is at issue. Indeed, the survival of our community. And Jarrel, I miss you. I love you, Frederick. Continue to struggle.
Thank you.
Continue to be unified. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
My name is Analysis. I'm over at this table right here. I have some things. A book is ready now. There will be an album out in a few months. It's called the album is called A Couple Thousand Years Later. Follow me on my media at Analysis the Poet across Twitter, IG, Facebook, and you will hear more announcements on that. God bless you. I love you.
Thank you. Yes.